And now we're going to the Alzheimer's field, and the first company to present is Alzecure and Martin Jönsson. Welcome.
Thank you, Fredrik. Thank you so much. Good day, everybody. Great to be here. Looking forward to present Alzecure's Alzheimer's projects. But first, a bit general about the company. We at Alzecure, we focus on Alzheimer's disease and pain. And as a commercial company, we were founded in 2016, but you can actually see us as a kind of a spin-off from AstraZeneca, when AstraZeneca stopped their research in Alzheimer's and pain, researchers at Alzecure continued. We are a very experienced team with competences from early target identification, chemistry, preclinical work, development, and also commercialization and BD. We are at Karolinska Institute, and we work very much with researchers at Karolinska Institute, for example. We have 3 platforms, of which 2 are focusing on Alzheimer's disease. And we only have small molecule programs. We have Alzstatin, which is an innovative preventive and disease-modifying therapy against Alzheimer's disease. And then we have Neurology, which is also targeting Alzheimer's, to help those patients who have developed Alzheimer's, to help them with cognition, improved cognition, learning capabilities, and memory. And then we also have our pain platform. We are listed since 2018 on NASDAQ, First North Premier Growth Market. We have a market cap of around $250 million and a cash position of around 50. We only, as I mentioned before, only focus on small molecules, and this is very, very consciously. Because with small molecules, we increase our likelihood of success, especially in Alzheimer's disease. And the reason for this is that small molecules have a much larger probability of coming over the blood-brain barrier to a large extent, which is crucial. But also small molecules can be developed as oral medication, have much lower production cost, etc. So there are great benefits, both for society and for patients. We are in close cooperation historically with several experts and institutions. Initially, the company was founded in cooperation with Bengt Wienblad at Karolinska Institute, and we are still working very much with him and his different teams, and also with Professor Maria Eriksdotter, and also with Henrik Zetterberg in Gothenburg and in London, who we are working with on, for example, Alzstatin. If we look at our portfolio of small molecule programs, we have our 3 platforms and 6 programs. In Neurology, aiming at cognitive disorders with a focus on Alzheimer's disease. We this summer had a positive readout on our phase 1 trial, which we now have finished that part, and we showed great, excellent safety, tolerability, but also target engagement. And we also have other very interesting data that I will speak about later on. And then in Alzstatin, we are in preclinical phase. We presented new molecule data earlier this spring. And then, of course, we have in pain, and just mentioned that we this summer started a phase 2, which is running very well. And here in that program, we are aiming for a readout mid next year. If we look at Alzheimer's disease, it's a disease that is progressive and lethal. It's in 2 phases, pre-symptomatic and symptomatic. And in the pre-symptomatic phase, the condition is building up. And what's happening is, or what is happening is that there are toxic proteins which are being built up in the brain and damaging the brain structure. And today, there are no treatment for this phase. And then you have symptomatic Alzheimer, and symptomatic Alzheimer, as it sounds, it is when the patient has symptoms, when the brain is so damaged that the neuron and brain structure are broken down to a great extent. Initially, we see it with symptoms like speech problems, memory loss and then functional problems. And today there are some medication, but they are not very effective. So we know that there is a huge unmet medical need in both these phases. If we look at different kinds of therapies, and I think this is very essential with regard to where we are going, because we are having success in this field, and we are very happy to see the data that came out from lecanemab this year. So congratulations. And if we look at the different therapies that's available or that we are speaking about, there are so-called disease-modifying, symptomatic, and preventive therapies. And I think for you as investors, it's very important to understand the difference between these. If we look at disease-modifying therapies, which is the case for the antibodies, these are drugs that go in and slow down the disease progression. Then there are categories called symptomatic therapy, where you all actually go in and increase the cognition and the ability in the patients. And then there is a category which are called preventive therapies. And these are very, very important to understand and differentiate between these different categories. And if you look at where we come in with our two platforms, we have Alzstatin, where we are targeting the amyloid production, and this is a preventive and potential disease-modifying therapies, where we are developing an oral medication. And then we also have NeuroRestore, which improves the neural function, learning and memory capabilities. And here, this is called a symptomatic treatment. But with this, we now also see potential disease-modifying abilities. If we look at Alzstatin, in Alzstatin, we are focusing on making sure that the brain is not deteriorated or destroyed. And therefore, also we want to make sure that these toxic things are produced in the brain. And here we are aiming at the amyloid cascade. And here we, with our compound, are going in and reducing A-beta 42, which is the source for what's later on produced. And here we have a gamma secretase modulator, which is diminishing the production of A-beta 42. If we look at the brain structure, the antibodies go in and treat damaged brain. We go in with Alzstatin to prevent this from happening. Also, other differentiating factors. Alzstatin is a small molecule. It's an oral formulation, preventive treatment, and also what we hope to come with fewer side effects. An oral formulation, making sure we can be treated in the home. NeuroRestore, cognitive enhancer, potential disease modifying. We, with NeuroRestore, go in and treat and upregulate the neurotrophins, BDNF and NGF, which are central for cognition and memory. And here we see the opportunity to treat not only Alzheimer's, but also Parkinson's, traumatic brain injury, and sleep disorders. We affect learning capabilities, storage, and memory capabilities. And we have now shown that in our phase 1 study that we are affecting brain activity, also showing safety and tolerability. We are also had an abstract on that we are potential neuroprotective, impacting several different systems. And also that we now have a patent in the US for NeuroRestore, which goes all the way up to 2039. So a long patent time for NeuroRestore. Key milestones for this year was to strengthen our finances, which we did successfully, so we are capitalized. We also aim to start a phase 2 study for NeuroRestore, which we have succeeded, and also a positive readout on NeuroRestore. We also now are advancing TrkA NAM successfully, and also progressing Alzstatin, as I commented on before. If we look at the key highlights why Alzecure is an interesting company to invest in, is that we are targeting, as you know and understand, areas of huge unmet medical need. We have a strong team with great capabilities. We have shown that we can identify targets, develop molecules, take them through preclinical into development. And also that we have a platform with first-in-class properties and potential game changers. We do parallel investments in several programs, as you've seen. The opportunities in our programs are multi-billion-dollar opportunities, and we have now, as a company, developed into a phase 2 company, which we are very proud of. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you for your presentation, Gunilla. Now, with us on stage, we're joined by Kristina Torfgård, the CEO of Alzinova, and Martin Jönsson, the CEO of Alzecure, along with myself and my colleague Fredrik Thor, for the final panel discussion of the day themed around the Alzheimer's disease.
And maybe as a first question, Gunilla, you mentioned lecanemab could be the start of a paradigm shift. And yeah, maybe if you could develop a bit on why lecanemab and why now? What makes lecanemab unique, and what experience can you use to design the trials that made it succeed?
No, I think that it's really a paradigm shift that we can see in front of us. Previously, there has been symptomatic treatments mainly on the market, and this is the first time that a disease-modifying treatment has shown a robust clinical effect with very, very clear data and a good safety tolerability profile. And I think that what we will see is combination treatments in the future. Of course, symptomatic together with disease-modifying, and I think in the longer term, different disease-modifying treatments also together to get an even better effect. I think that I'm really happy about the results, which I think is clearly clinically meaningful. But it's important to have more treatments coming along. So we have more alternatives and better combinations. So the ideal way is, of course, we would like to stop the treatment. We are not there yet. But we have a clear possibility to help the patients to get more lives, more years in the stages where you have a better life. So, and I think there were several questions in your question.
But also what the evidence you've built on to design the pivotal trial.
Yeah, so I think there are so many learnings in the Alzheimer field, which I think that we really have incorporated in both the phase 2b but also phase 3 trial. And you saw to the left on one of my slides, I have this, which I call the 6 R's. Well, the first one is to have the right target. And I really compliment Professor Lars Landfelt, who has been with his idea for more than 20 years, of that he got from the Arctic mutation to really selectively target, bind and eliminate the toxic forms, the protofibrils and oligomers of amyloid beta. There we are unique. And then really importantly to make sure that the patients in your trial have Alzheimer's disease and not dementia of another cause. There was many failed studies who missed that part. And then don't skip phase 2. That's one of my pleas, because that's when you're going to find the right dose. It's really important to know the right dose, to know that you have the right exposure. Yes, antibodies have more difficulties to come into the brain, but we have shown that we come in enough to really clear the amyloid deposits in the brain. So really important to see that you have the right dose, come into the target, and do something that you want to do. And then safety. Really, really important to see that you have a good safety tolerability profile, and that you do the right design of a clinical trial. There has been many failures because you have done too small studies or so. It's really important to do a well-sized study. And then the last one I put, the 6th one, is collaboration, which I think is really, really key. It's BioArctic collaborating with ASI, and also, of course, all the physicians, clinicians, patients, relatives around the world that has helped out to do a study like this. So there are so many learnings that I think we got all those things right, and that's why we have so good results.
And,
sorry, a long...
No, that's a good answer. And I suppose that both Kristina and Martin agree that there's need for combination treatments, but maybe if you can comment a bit on that.
Yeah, I would like to comment on the results, because while, of course, getting a treatment now which is effective and safe and everything is so important, but this is really validating the amyloid hypothesis. And this will start so much investment in these kinds of treatment. Now with lecanemab, it's shown it works. This is also great for us with regard to alstatin, which also builds on this. So I think this is so important. And then we already now see the interest from different companies who are in the Alzheimer's field, and with regard to projects like for Alzinova and for us. So this is great, and this will, I think, really will change the whole scene for Alzheimer companies.
Yeah, I can just complement here and say that I think this is really proving the amyloid beta hypothesis, which many of us are building on, which is great. I think this is really good for the industry. This will make that more industry will stay in spending money on research and development in Alzheimer's, and also that regulators will really work collaboratively with all of us in order to make sure that we get effective treatment, disease-modifying treatment, even in the long run. And actually, we do learn from the front runners. How we design the studies, what type of patient population. So it's really great for the whole field.
And Christina, building on that, of course, this is good for the industry as a whole, and you can take a lot of learnings from this. Will this be something that you will be looking upon when potentially choosing partners for the upcoming phase 2 clinical trials?
You mean learning from, for example, BioArctic and ASI?
Yeah, like looking on study designs and choosing clinical endpoints, etc.
Absolutely. I think it's great to be in an area where they are front runners, actually have been in good collaborations with the regulatory authorities, have been or are working with big pharma. And I think, as you mentioned, it's really key to find a good fit with the one you are going to partner with. That's what I've seen in previous, in my past life, that the partnering is so important in order to make sure that you get most out of the drug candidates.
Very interesting. And Gunilla, you brushed upon combinational therapy as well. And I know that you, Martin, brought it up in your slides as well, the difference between the different type of therapies with disease modifying and preventive, etc. Could you add a little bit more spice on that? Why is this so important with different types of therapies?
Because they really do different things. I mean, with the antibodies, with lecanemab, we can slow the disease progression. But here we have patients who actually have decreased cognition. So what we want to do here is to help these patients so their cognitions improve, their learning abilities, their memory abilities, etc. So they really get better quality of lives. And this is important for the patient, but it's also important for the families and partners. And then also, when we speak so broadly about symptomatic and treatments, there are different symptomatic treatments. Some of them are improving brain health, some are stimulating the neurotrophic signaling. So we need to have, also combination there. It's all about helping the patients in the best possible way. And I mean, for us, it will be so important that a drug like lecanemab hopefully will be there, because these patients will actually need this treatment even more, and also for a longer time period. And this has also been brought up by representatives from BioArctic before. So this is truly great. Of course, we also have learned through this journey how important it is to come in early with the treatment. We need to come in before the brain is deteriorated, because when the patients have the symptom of mild Alzheimer's disease, the brain is broken down by 20 to 30%. We don't want to get there. We want to help the patient much, much earlier.
And could there potentially be some risk involved with the combinational therapy as well? I know lecanemab, of course, demonstrated a very well safety profile with low area E. Is there a risk of an increased ARIA-E with the combinational therapy potentially?
I think it really depends on the kind of target that you are adding it. But I think, first of all, Alzheimer patients are often old. They already have a lot of things happening, often comorbidities, as I explained. So I think that, and every treatment you take comes with a risk of side effects. I mean, that's part of the game. It's even when you take the headache pill or whatever, it always comes with, so you need to think about risk-benefit all the time. And I think that different classes will have different kind of side effects. Now we have learned quite a lot about those 4 late-stage compounds, that all of them experience some kind of this ARIA-E, even though we have less than half of the other 3. So all of those have some aspects of this. And I think that when we see phase 2b and phase 3 results of all different kind of treatments, of course there will be some kind of side effects. It comes with the game. So it's really important to see that it's not, for this patient population, that it's not too much side effects. But I don't think, we'll see, ARIA-E I think is probably more linked to those, to the amyloid part. So I mean, if you combine that with a tau treatment, which is ongoing in the combination trial, there's probably other things coming with the tau treatment and so forth. So I think that you can't just think about the ARIA-E for all. I mean, that's what we have learned. And I think it's really phase 2b and phase 3 when you learn more. And especially when you then allow many other comorbidities and concomitant medication, that's when you understand your safety tolerability profile.
And I also think we need to differentiate in the patient population. We know that there are certain patients, ApoE4, if they are homozygote or heterozygote, their vulnerability to different treatments are varying. So we need to really understand the patient we are treating and then select the right treatment based on that. And that can affect side effects. Absolutely. That we know from lecanemab, we will know more from or we know it from Aduhelm, and we will know it from lecanemab, but to find the right patients is so important.
So can I just comment on this with side effect? Because I think it's very important for this patient population, as they are quite old, as you mentioned, and fragile. So safety is key here. But combining different treatment can actually make that you can go down in doses, for example. So maybe you can have even better side effects by doing that.
And to switch the subject a bit, you mentioned, Gunilla, that a lot of people ask you about if it's clinically meaningful, and I will do the same. But who determines what makes it clinically meaningful? And has there been a discussion before this results? And I mean, because this is the first clear data, as you mentioned, with the p-values and so on. Do you think that the discussions on what is clinically meaningful will start now with lecanemab as a basis, or what's the current discussions before the data?
Yeah, no, I mean, I was really expecting this discussion to come if we would end up with the positive results, which we did. And then what I was expecting was then the discussion about what's clinically meaningful, because it's really hard to understand. What does it mean? And first of all, you need to have a clinically meaningful scale that measures both cognition and function. And CDR sum of boxes, which is key primary, or the primary endpoint, is a very difficult scale. It's hard to hit on that scale. So that's also why the study is sized as it is. And then you need to show, I mean, that if you have an 18-month treatment period, you deteriorate maybe about 1.5 points on this scale. So it's really important to, we don't know exactly for our study what it was, but normally. And then what we know is we had a lowering of decline versus placebo of 0.45. And that means 27%. And what I showed you with the disease modeling for long-term effect, this is a long-term treatment, is that you could save several years. And to me, that's definitely clinically meaningful. I mean, I've seen this disease closely. And for those who have done that, if you can have more years in the earlier stages, that means a lot for patients and families and relatives and partners. And also, less patients will come to a need institutionalization. And that is also important for societal costs. So I'm sure there will be a lot more debate about clinically meaningfulness, but I'm convinced that lecanemab has really shown that it can help patients in a clinically meaningful way.
Yeah.
And when it comes to clinical meaningful, this with the combination treatments will also add value, because if you add it together, then you will see what the clinical meaningfulness really is. And that's really important. So only to see drugs isolated, I don't think mirrors reality or how it should be viewed.
And then I just want to add also, I think both of you alluded to that also, if we start treatment even earlier, which the other phase 3 program is doing, that lecanemab is in, the AHEAD 3-4-5 study. There, I mean, if we go in even earlier, then we're talking about a 4-year treatment study. And if we can then go in very early, maybe we can help the patients to delay the time to symptoms much more. And that could be very, very important. But today, I'm so happy about the first step to helping the early Alzheimer's disease patients to get some more years with a more positive life quality.
And the next step, of course, will be commercialization. And the full approval could be already in 2023 in the US. But what the next step is, how are patients diagnosed today? If you diagnose an Alzheimer's patient, how would that be today? And is it enough how patients currently are diagnosed? And what type of improvements do you hope to see to get a full broad launch of disease-modifying treatments? To anyone. But maybe Gunilla
I can start.
Yes, start with Gunilla, please.
Yeah, today, I mean, it's a combination of medical history and also that you should show that you have Alzheimer pathology. And that is amyloid and tau that you should show in some way. And today, normally in Sweden, we are really great at doing lumbar puncture and doing a CSF sample to show the protein signature. Alternatives to that is to do PET scan and show that you have amyloid deposits in the brain. But what's really, really good is what's happening in the blood biomarker area, which I think is so important for the whole field. And now also when disease-modifying treatments are coming, that you can help to identify the right patients, diagnose the patients in a more simple way. And it's fantastic that Sweden is in the lead also here, both in Gothenburg with Kai Blennow and Henrik Zetterberg, and in Malmö-Lund with Oskar Hansson and his team. And actually in the south of Sweden this year, they will be exploring blood biomarkers through Oskar Hansson and his team in the clinical setting, to see if that can help to diagnose patients through blood test and then an algorithm. And then so far you need to verify it with other alternatives, but for the future. And ASA is already using the blood biomarkers for screening to the AHEAD study, the study in subjects who do not yet have any symptoms. And it's also being utilized in one of the open label extension studies to see if we can dose less frequent. So it's definitely coming. It's not here yet available for patients in clinical practice, but not far away.
And Kristina, do you agree?
Yes, definitely. And I this is just the beginning, I can see, because now when the biomarkers are improving, and we also are seeing that there are coming out, hopefully, disease-modifying treatments that can treat the disease, then it's really worth to having these biomarkers. In the past, it wasn't really, because we couldn't treat the disease. But now I can also see the future and how good it would be that you go to the primary care, you take your blood samples and get the diagnosis. And then that you also can go to the primary care and get a vaccine. So you don't need to spend a lot of time in the hospital. You can just go there and do these visits, which is very convenient for patients and the society.
Martin, do you have an opinion?
Yes, I think it's so important now that the healthcare system really gets educated and equipped with these diagnostic tools. We know that with the blood samples in combination with a cognitive test, there is a 90% probability that you can find the patients. And now with treatments coming out, it's even more important that the patients are diagnosed early, so they get treatment early.
Is this something that could help in the clinical development of your candidates as well? Is this a benefit for Alzenova?
Yeah, definitely. The biomarkers will be very helpful for us to design the phase 2 and 3 program. And also, I think that working together with Kai Blennow and Henrik Zetterberg, being one of the leading scientists in this field, will be very useful for us, of course.
Do you agree, Martin?
Yes.
Yes.
And I can just say we are doing it.
Perfect. I think that's all the time we have for today's panel. But thank you all for participating. It's been a real enjoyment for us all. And I want to thank all our viewers as well for tuning in to today's Neurology seminar.
Thank you.